I decided that I wanted to do either an app or a website. I had all these great ideas, but no clients, or I wasn't training anybody online yet. And so it actually took me 2.5 years before I got my first international clients. I had to open my own little studio space with local clients. And then I took these clients and started the online school of exercise with their videos. And
Hi everyone, I am Oliver Crowe, a second grade student and an aspiring YouTuber, and you're listening to the Vance Crowe podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm glad you're here. Today we talk to kinesiologist and personal trainer Alex Bernier. Alex is a curious character. I found him on Twitter as he was posting all these pictures of him doing exercises with very precise motion, or he would show the musculoskeletal system, and I would be able to see some of these ideas that I've heard my wife talk about, but have never actually seen the diagrams to make it come to life for me. So longtime listeners of the podcast know that my wife is a physical therapist with extremely exacting standards. And so I've always looked at Alex's stuff with a little bit of suspicion. But every time I read and watch what he's doing, I come to the understanding of why I can't put my arms straight up in the air, or why I don't have the flexibility to bend down the way that I used to when I was younger. Alex is a soft-spoken guy, but he has so much to say about how you can introduce yourself to exercise, what he does to overcome the voice of resistance. And since he's in Canada, we even talk about why he's excited about what's going on in places like Texas and Florida, because it's informing what the citizenry can push back on in the government of Canada. So we're going to get to this interview in just a moment, but I wanted to let you, the listener, know about a project that I started a few months ago that has exploded with popularity. What I do is people that sign up for a newsletter that I put on our connections page get a reminder once a week that says, hey, this is a type of person that you should reach out to and say something about how you got to know them, or what you admire about them, or what makes them special. I include an example of a person that I wrote with this similar sort of prompt, and I give some writing tips about how to make these sorts of emails easier to write. Now, the effect of this has been people have been reaching out to members of their network or people that they've always wanted to reach out to but never had a reason to, and I am getting a flood of positive feedback, people that are so grateful that we're doing this that they say thank you to me all the time. So I wanted to extend that to you, the podcast listener. If you're interested in getting a connections prompt once a week in your email that gives you a person to reach out to, gives you some advice on how to do it, and then somebody that'll be super excited to hear how it goes, I would love it if you signed up for the Connections email. All you have to do is go to vancecrowe.com/connections and sign up with your email. And once a week, you'll get a prompt that'll get you to start this wonderful activity over the next year. You will be amazed at what will happen to your life if you can keep finding ways to pump positive energy into your network. You have no idea where it will lead, but I assure you, it will be somewhere positive. All right, without further ado, let's get to my interview with my man, Alex Bernier. Alex Bernier, welcome to the podcast.
thanks for having me, Vance. I'm happy to be here.
You are a prolific Twitterer. You put out these graphics and images of people doing exercise that are so good, I can't even tell you the number of them that I have sent to my wife to be like, hey, you need to do this too. How in the world did you get so good at posting imagery on Twitter?
Well, I love writing, so Twitter's been the platform for me. I was on Instagram, I was on Facebook, and it wasn't really working out. And I just started a Twitter account, and just the mix of writing and then finding, a nice image or something that's catchy, just sort of worked out. And then I saw what worked, and I've been building on that ever since.
So you are an exercise guy. You really show people how to do movements correctly. And this is really close to my heart because before I turned like 35, it didn't matter how I did exercises. I could do them whatever way I wanted, no problem. But then you hit a certain point where anytime you do something even slightly wrong, all of a sudden things start breaking down. So this is an interesting field. Tell me your background. How did you get into doing exercise, and how did you become so precise at the movements?
Well, I played ice hockey when I was younger, like most Canadian boys. And it's a very physical sport, very fast, especially once you turn 14 years old, you start hitting. And so I didn't have a choice. I was this lanky, skinny kid. And I really had to hit the gym in order to get bigger and start making the better teams and also not get destroyed on the ice. So that was my first sort of introduction to working out. But actually thinking back, my father was the first person I ever saw work out as a kid. I was super young, and I remember we were at a hotel and he was training at the hotel gym, and I saw him working out and I was like, I want to do that too. And I remember ever since wanting to join a gym. So that sort of helped me push into it. And then because of hockey, it gave me that extra purpose. And so I did become a better athlete. I got bigger, I got more muscle mass. And so obviously that sort of keeps you motivated. And then one time I just started training a good friend of mine, and he got results too. And I was like, I like that. I really I enjoyed it. So I got a personal training certification. Then I studied kinesiology in university and started working at a gym, and have been doing it ever since. Now I'm doing it on my own. So working
the
with
world of personal training is the Wild West, right? There's all kinds of people out there saying, hey, I'll give you a certification and this is the right way to do it. And then you've got people going out and trying to set up their own gyms and then doing it inside of health clubs. What do you know now about being a personal trainer and kind of what that term means to people that you didn't know before you got started?
It's such a broad job. You could specialize yourself in athletes, people in pain, people that want to get super lean, that want to look like fitness models. I was very confident when I graduated from school. I thought that I knew everything that I needed to know. And then once I started working with real clients, breathing human beings, everything I knew was, out the window, and I had to sort of get good at dealing with people. So it's really, it's kind of a cliche to say this, but you also kind of become their therapist. Some people spend more time with you than they do with their family or their wives. You see someone 5 hours a week. That's a lot of time that you get to spend with someone. And so it really is about not only knowing what you're talking about, but also being able to express it, and then being able to deal with the individual in front of you who might be depressed, anxious, has all sorts of problems going on. And then when they're in the gym with you, you have to be able to motivate them. And obviously exercise is something that requires a lot of time to generate results. So you got to keep them motivated for a long period of time. And so that's, it's not just about training and exercise. It's also about psychology. And it's just been such a wild ride in terms of learning, because I've had to sort of get good at so many different things, including business, including psychology, including continue my knowledge on the human body and the brain. So it's just, I'm still a student, even though it's been over 10 years.
I think, motivation is one of those things that's like something you realize about a personal trainer very early on, is a large part of their job is motivation. But a big thing that's really difficult for a personal trainer is you've got to help people not to lie to themselves, because it's very easy for somebody to do a really hard workout 5 days a week and then go home and eat really, really well, except for after 8 o'clock when they have some drinks. So they start eating ice cream and they're not really being honest with themselves. And so therefore they can't be honest with you about all these cheating things they're doing. And yet they're still, because they're lying to themselves, the frustration that they're not making gains, that they're not getting the progress. Tell me about the deeper inner world of motivation that's harder to see.
It's the responsibility is a little asymmetrical in the sense that the success of my work with somebody depends on them doing a specific list of things, right? And then, like you said, you start, you have a couple of drinks, you'll have ice cream, and they're actually pretty honest about it. They'll tell you and almost laugh about it, or sometimes they might not tell you and lie to you. But it's, I have to become the person that motivates them to do all these things that they know are wrong for them, to do them less or to stop doing them at all, if that's what they need. And so it's, that's why I talked about psychology before, is I have to really make it mean something to them. But then even then, sometimes the person just doesn't have that inner motivation. And that's one of the biggest challenges that I've faced as a personal trainer, an exercise professional, is being able to deal with their all the bad habits, so to speak, that they have back home. And, at the end of the day, it becomes my responsibility. And if it doesn't work out, then it's my training, or it's I wasn't able to motivate them. So that's why it's it's a little difficult to juggle that.
It's a funny thing because on this podcast, we talk about the voice of resistance, right? That voice that, maybe you go running a couple of times in a row, and then the third morning you wake up and you're a little sore and you're like, you know what? You worked out really hard last week. You don't have to do it this week, right? But the challenge with the voice of resistance for the person that you're training is like they maybe don't get the results that they want. But for you, if you listen to the voice of resistance, like all of a sudden you won't represent the thing that people are coming to you for. Like, do you have a different relationship with the voice of resistance than just regular people?
Well, it's definitely an extra incentive, right? In the sense that I have to practice what I preach, or most of it at least, because otherwise, people aren't going to come to me. If I look, if I'm hurt and I can't train, and then I don't look like I work out, it's superficial, but people aren't going to be sort of attracted to my service. And so that's why if I don't do it, then it's my livelihood. It's my job that I won't be able to do properly. So it definitely is motivating for myself, but also my own experience with exercise, right? I want to get stronger. I wanted to fix my sleep back when I was insomniac. And so all these different things have motivated me to fix them. And that sort of creates an energy where it passes off to my clients or my students. And, it's like I said, I practice what I preach mostly because I need it too. I'm also a human being. And if I don't exercise, if I don't work out, if I don't sleep well, everything goes down the toilet. So I have that as a motivation as well.
You reminded me of the sleep Twitter thread that you put out. You actually wrote that at the same time that I had finally, maybe for 3 straight weeks, gotten to bed at the same time every day. And it had really been a huge thing. So to see your Twitter thread about how you fought through insomnia really meant a lot to me, because I don't think people realize just how difficult it is to get good sleep hygiene. But once you get it, the tremendous gift it is to your life, it's better than almost anything else.
You never want to go back.
So talk about that Twitter thread and kind of your battle with insomnia, because I mean, really, it seemed horrible. I don't know what I would have done had I experienced what you went through.
Well, just as far as I can remember as a kid, I had trouble sleeping. I remember going to sleep over at a friend's house, and I'd always be the last one to fall asleep. If I fell asleep, sometimes I would just not fall asleep at all. It started getting really bad in high school, because I guess there was additional stress. I was playing on 2 different hockey teams, getting my grades up, the usual stressors for a teenager. And then in college, you're partying in college. I was partying maybe 4 or 5 nights a week. So it was I didn't really realize it. But then once I graduated and I started getting personal training clients at 6 a.m, then my insomnia became really problematic because it was affecting my performance. Obviously, I'm somebody that has to motivate my client, but if I hadn't slept the night before, it's very, very difficult to get into that state. And so it took about 2.5 to 3 years, but I did, change my nutrition, change my habits. I did a whole bunch of different things. And now I fall asleep when my head hits the pillow. And that's the best feeling that I've ever gotten in my life. It was just my energy levels, my mood, my mental acuity, everything is just top notch because I'm sleeping well. And so now I get sleepy at 8:30, 9 p.m. at night, and I still go out. I still have a social life, but I try to fall asleep at the same time. And I always wake up at the same time as well.
And so what were the habits in particular that you think really pushed you over the edge to be able to have that? Because I think that thing that you just described, I fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow, is the dream that many, many people have. They would love to be able to do that, but it's like a pipe dream to them.
Yeah. The number one thing was, and like I said, I had graduated from university, so I started getting a regular schedule of clients at the gym that I was working at the time. And so starting at 6 a.m., I was living in the suburbs. So it was about a 30-minute drive to the gym downtown. And so I would have to wake up for the first time in my life at 4:30, 5 in the morning to get there and get ready in time. And so that kind of forced me to start going to bed at the same time every night. And the second that you start getting a routine, you start teaching your body how to wind down at the end of the day. And so Obviously, I had to do, cut screens at night. I was taking magnesium as a supplement, which is the anti-stress nutrient. I was exercising in the morning, even though I didn't have that much energy. I found that exercising in the morning kept my energy at acceptable levels throughout the day. But then even for a while, I would get to bed and then have more energy than I had throughout the whole day. But eventually, as I kept doing these different habits, I started falling asleep, and it was great. But like I said, it took 2 to 3 years, and it was frustrating at first because I wanted it to work right away, but I just kept going, and it eventually fixed itself.
Yeah, so I run a network called the Articulate Ventures Network, and each month we choose different experiences to do as a group. So like we did the Sober October, which was kind of generic but really interesting, and I found out from that, through my sleep, that if I don't drink alcohol, I feel a lot better. Like it took a little longer to go to sleep at night, but like if I don't have a couple glasses of wine or, some beer or whatever, then it's easier for me to wake up in the morning. But it wasn't until we did this exercise where we were like, all right, everybody just choose a time that you're going to bed and then do that every single night for 30 days. That then all of a sudden you realize, like, wait a second, just going to bed at the same time every night made me feel even better than not having any alcohol in before I went to bed. So it was like a huge leap forward, and like it didn't take that long for it to happen where you start being like, why isn't anybody talking about this? It almost seems like we're colluding against us. And then you think about it, like it really is. Netflix, their goal is to make it so you don't go to sleep, right? They want you to stay up and watch. Television's never going to sit there and be like, you really should go to bed now. And so you start thinking like, it's not this necessarily a conspiracy against you, but everything else is stacked against the attention that you would give it instead of your sleep.
Right. Absolutely. And, our physiology works in cycles, right? Our circadian rhythms. So by creating this regularity to your day, especially for going to bed, you're sort of regulating your physiological cycles as well, right? No matter what, if you go to bed, unless you're an insomniac like me and you end up having more energy when you try to go to sleep, just relaxing, being in the dark, everything starts to calm down, and then eventually you just sink into your sleep.
Yeah, and I don't know if they have this, if it was in Canada, where they would say people should count sheep, jumping over. And I remember that being like such a silly kind of roll your eyes. But when you think about it from the meditation perspective, to hold your mind on one thing for 100 counts is nearly impossible. And if you really are focusing on that, it is a form of meditation. I was really surprised at the times, because I had a friend one time say, when I don't fall asleep, this is what I do, is I count sheep. And I was like, that's crap. But then you actually try and do it. And whatever, at least for me, the only thing that keeps me up now is if I'm stressing on something. If I'm like, I can't figure out why that's not working, and I just keep rolling it over in my head. I do the counting sheep thing, and it actually genuinely works, which is a funny thing to learn.
Well, it's like you said, meditation, right? You're focusing on one thing. Meditation helped a lot. I only started meditating a bit later after I had fixed my sleep, but what it did is just improve the quality of my sleep significantly. And it's also because mindful meditation is a lot about breathing, right? And breathing is one of the central regulators of your body for every other function. And so by controlling your breathing, you indirectly access these different physiological functions, such as attention, such as switching to sleep mode. And so that helped me. I can't even say how much. It's tremendous.
It's hilarious. I remember reading one of your Twitter threads about breathing, and I remember being like, you became like a dragon to me. I started avoiding your stuff because I was like, I think he's right. I probably do need to work on the breathing, but I think sitting down to work on breathing will be harder than it was for me to learn how to lift weights or how to run, because it's like, it's 100% the voice of resistance. It's just like, do you really have time to do this? Is breathing really that important? So what's your best pitch? Why are breathing exercises important, and what did it change in you once you really figured out how to breathe? I mean, everybody knows how to breathe. So why are you doing a Twitter thread on that?
Well, because the part of the brain that regulates and controls breathing is also the same part of the brain that controls all your other unconscious functions, like heart rate, like attention, posture. all these different things. And so, like I said, by breathing, by doing focused breathing, you're stimulating that part of the brain. And so indirectly, that part of the brain is going to be doing a better job at controlling all the other functions. And right, breathing is life. Breathing is the central component of our life. So you have to, by doing it, you're getting all these other essential functions to sort of work in synchrony.
And so what was it like? What's the path for somebody to take if they want to really improve the way that they breathe?
The first thing I did was to focus on nose breathing during my workouts. So, and at first it was so difficult. I would try, and then after one set, I'd start panting through my mouth, and breathing through your nose is a lot better because you have more filters, and you get a better oxygen absorption into all your tissues. So by doing it, and it was crazy because I couldn't feel. It was like an ab workout for me, trying to try to only breathe through my nose after a set. And then after, maybe a few sessions, I was able to make it through the whole workout without opening my mouth. And one way that you can do that is to take a sip of water and hold it and only breathe through your nose, and you can't breathe through your mouth, because if you do, the water will come out. So that was the first one I did. And then obviously I started feeling just a lot better, because what you end up doing is you become more focused, but without increasing your stress levels. So you have that focused feeling, but at the same time you're calm. So your focus is enhanced. And I started researching a lot more, different exercises. And there's actually a lot of scientific research that's been done on the matter. And that's why I was like, okay, that's a good Twitter thread.
And have you walked any of your clients up this path of breathing? Like, have you gotten anybody to be like, yeah, let's do a whole workout where all we do is breathe through our nose? Yeah,
a few, yeah. And I talk about breathing to most of my clients too. Like I said, it's just a central component to not just health, but performance. So, and by breathing through your nose, you get better core activation when you're doing, let's say, squats or chin-ups. So it enhances, and they feel it too. So it helps them get motivated to sort of sit down and do the specific breathing exercises on their own.
Man, I'm just sitting here trying to breathe through my nose, and I keep thinking, like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm gonna black out. But it really does get better as you go.
Yeah, well, it's more. You get more activity of the diaphragm. So right now it's just when you breathe through your mouth, you're breathing through your neck, your trap, your chest. So it's a lot tighter. Breathing through your nose is a lot deeper, and you're getting more diaphragm, which is your main breathing muscle. So it's like training your biceps, but for breathing.
Oh man, you're exactly right. I'm sitting here doing this, and you're exactly right. It actually pulls your body in different ways. So that's one of the things I love about your stuff, man, because I find that most of Twitter, what I am there is for intellectual stimulation. I want to be, I either want to be challenged in some way where somebody says something intellectually offensive where I'm like, no, that can't be right. And then as I think about it more, I'm improved. Or that I see something and I think like, why does this work? Or why is this person putting this forward? And I see that your stuff has that really honed down to a very fine art, that you're always spotting things that my initial reaction is either, no, Alex, I don't want to do that. Or it's one of, is that right? That can't be right. No, that can't be right. So are these just like thoughts in your head that you have to put these Twitter down? Or do you actually spend real time sitting down thinking about what am I going to put out there?
A bit of both. Obviously I have the sort of main topics in my head, but I'm still learning about the body, about the brain, about the nervous system and everything. And so by writing tweets and by writing threads, it helps me sort of synthesize what I'm learning. So a lot of times if I'm posting about a certain topic, it's because I've been either researching it or trying a new exercise or whatever. And then I put it together as either a post or a thread. And then I try to find the right image for it.
Yeah, I think your imagery is really what's high quality. So my wife is a physical therapist, and I would put her in the category of being among the best in the world. She was an aerospace engineer and just very top of her class. And so I'm hyper critical of what other people put out. And I'm not good enough to judge your level, but I can say that the things you put out there are like, hey, he's right. I had to learn how to hold my abs as I ran so my hips didn't drop. And like, oh, he's totally right. I actually can't lift my arm up above my head and lift it into a straight line. Like, you really have hammered on these things. And I mean, it actually makes me quite excited because I think you are doing what my wife's field needs to do. And I'm just glad somebody's putting this stuff out there.
Right, for sure. It's so different. Each individual is so unique, right? That the problems that you run into teaching these basic things are it's never the same. The path is never the same for specific people. So it's always a challenge to, okay, how am I going to get this person to do what I want them to do?
So you are in Canada right now, and as far as I can tell, Canada is treating COVID lockdowns almost completely differently. In the US, things are opening up more and more every day. It's almost as though it not that it never happened, but the residual effects are coming off very quickly. What's going on where you're at right now?
Well, it's it's the U.S. Canada.
Well, where are you for people that don't know Canada geography very well? Where are you right now?
I'm in Montreal, Quebec. Quebec is the French-speaking province of Canada, and we are right above Vermont, New York, Maine, and so that's where we are. And it's just we're a socialist country, and I don't know if that's why the leaders have gotten thirsty with their powers, but I'm very grateful that the United States are doing what they're doing, because now they've lost a lot of their backing. There's a lot of people here, despite the fact that we are our measures are a lot stricter. More and more people are starting to not rebel, but protest, and you can tell that the leaders are struggling with that, and that they've lost their upper edge. So we're probably, and this is all thanks to places like Florida and Texas that are showing us that it doesn't have to be the way that our current leaders are telling us.
You said something I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this before, that Canada is a socialist country. Is that an official position, or is that like your assessment of where they're at? It's
democratic socialism, so it's not like Venezuela or any of those places, but we pay 50% taxes on our salary, and there's a lot of similarities with communist countries, but it's just technically more acceptable, I guess. It's like one level under the really bad stuff.
Wow.
More like kind of like Sweden, Finland, places like that.
So, I mean, Quebec is an interesting place too. I mean, like one of the very first things you said was it's the French speaking part of the country, right? It's been a place that's been able to preserve a culture outside of the other parts of Canada because of its strict enforcement of the language. And so what makes this the place that you call home?
Well, it's where I was born. Other than that, I lived in Dubai for a year and a half. I worked for a startup there. We started a gym over there, an athletic center.
You started a gym in Dubai?
Wow. I was the first employee there. Okay. First trainer that was with the owners. So I got to see Dubai is like an accelerated version of in terms of business. There's just so much money out there that things happen a lot faster than they do, let's say, here in Canada. So I got to live in that kind of environment, and then I came back home because I wanted to be with my family, and I was helping all these people over there, but I wasn't helping the people closest to me, and so I wanted to be there for everyone. And it's my home, but I would definitely I love to travel, and I always have. So and the fact that my business now, the Online School of Exercise, can be done from anywhere, and I've lived that over the last year. I have no problem with being, 6 months there or another 6 months there, but always keeping, it's family that keeps me here. It's that my family and my close friends are all here.
I want to get to the Online School of Exercise, but before we leave the Dubai concept, were people coming in regular sports workout, or were you dealing with people in, like shake outfits and having to put away their robes and things like that before they started working out?
We had a lot of expat clients. So I had American clients, British, from all over the world. But then we did have some local clients, and they come in their white suit, and then they get changed in normal fitness clothes. And we had one woman that would train with us, and then she would have her head was covered, and but she would be in like a training outfit, a training variation of their burqa.
So when you came back to the U.S. or no, to Canada, sorry, what is that when you started the online school of exercise?
Yeah, well, it didn't work out with the startup. So I came home. I went there expecting I'm going to live there for the rest of my life, make tons of money in Dubai, and then it didn't work out. And I came home a year and a half later, and I was like, you know what? I want to start my own company now. I saw how it was done, and I also saw what it was like to open a gym, which had been my original career path, my dream, so to speak, that, okay, I want to own my own gym. But then I saw what it was like to open a gym, and I just saw how many other gyms there were and what the competition was like. And, back then social media fitness was starting. This was like early 2010. And I decided that I wanted to do either an app or a website. I had all these great ideas, but no clients, or I wasn't training anybody online yet. And so it actually took me 2.5 years before I got my first international clients. I had to open my own little studio space with local clients. And then I took these clients and started the online school of exercise with their videos. And, the concept of it, of them being able to get a program from me through my website is what started it all. And then eventually, through Twitter, I made my first client from New York. And now I have clients in India, Europe, all over the map. It's great.
So let's talk about what an online school of exercise is there, because I think a lot of people picture a personal trainer as somebody that's like, come on, lift it, go, go, go. Are you doing that with them?
Some of them, and that's just not my style really, but some of them pay for live sessions, right? But the online platform allows me to tailor a service that is, based on their budget, based on their needs. I get a lot more flexibility than, say, having my own place and then having people come to me. So some people use the live sessions, and some clients I've never spoken to by voice. It's just all done by email. And sometimes you don't hear about them for a bit and you're wondering how they're doing. And then a month later, it's like, oh, I love the workout. I've gotten great results. And then just every month it's a new workout. So it's just, I have a lot more flexibility to create a service that is suited for the person.
So tell me about the type of person that decides they want to do an online, coach, like in the way that you are.
It's a lot of, I'd say, people from 25 to, I have clients that are about in their mid 40s, 50s, a little older, and a lot of people who they want to get in shape. They want to start. They're either hurt and they know they have to exercise, but they can't because they're hurt. So, and then there's students. There's people that are already good at working out, but that are stuck somewhere. They've reached a plateau, and so I help them with that. And it's just it's a pretty wide range of students.
And then they have the same response rate as when you're in a regular gym. Sometimes people keep showing up for more, sometimes they don't. Like, what's the feel like of what you're doing since everything is remote?
You get a lot of the same issues that you have with real personal training, but you have people that catch on and they love it, and they just I'm able to keep them longer than if I had been selling them big packages in my gym, so to speak, because now they're taking like not a watered down program, but they're taking they're taking a course with me that is, it doesn't have to be 3 meetings a week for 6 months. We only speak once a month. And then they have to pay a little less money. They get to pay a little less money, but then because of that, they're able to stay for a year with me. And that's, in terms of personal training or getting results, you'd rather keep someone for a year than having someone, pay a lot of money for 1 month and then just disappear off the map.
Yeah, exercise is far more about consistency than it is about intensity. So people will get far further, and they will be a walking billboard for you if they've stayed in for a year, as opposed to just doing one really hard month.
Even 3 years, I'd say 3 to 5 years is a realistic time frame to get the results that you want out of the gym, and not a lot of people talk about that, right? Social media fitness is 90 days, 30 days, all these short challenges. And then people get hyped up and they expect, they follow people that have been training for 20 years, 15 years, and who are marketing diets or exercise plans and whatever, and they look like fitness models. And so people sign on to different programs expecting to look like that after 1 month. And it doesn't make sense. You have to train for at least 3 to 5 years before you start really getting some excellent results. And of course, there's always a small percentage of people that will get really fast results, right? But for most people, and that's why I called it the school of exercise, is because it's like you want to finish high school, you want to finish university. It takes time. You need, you need three to 5 years. I've had clients that have been there for 8 years.
I think this is exactly right. I mean, the biggest improvement that I had from lifting, and I started a long time ago, was range of motion and my ability to move in my everyday life. Like if somebody had told me, hey, the thing that you're going to want when you're about 40 years old is the ability to, bend down or be able to squat down and pick up your child or play with her without going, ugh. But that was not something that could have been done in 3 months. I had to improve hip range, ankle range, how strong my knees were, whether I lifted myself up from my quads. And really, when you think about it, the whole benefit of being a lifter or somebody that knows how to exercise is your ability to do everyday activities. It's not the ability to exercise better. It's the ability to live better. And I think that you're exactly right. Like that 3-4 year timeline seems about right to me.
Yeah, even more, right? I've been training myself for 20 years now. And I'm still learning, and I still have some challenges, and I still have some weaknesses that I need to fix. So you have to look at it as a long-term project, or else you're going to get super excited. You're going to want very fast, short-term results, but then once you don't get those results, right, you're going to lose motivation and just give up. So if you start your exercise process thinking, okay, I'm in this for the long run, I'm going to expect at least 3 to 5 years. It just changes your whole perspective.
I think so. I one time decided I was going to run 500 miles, and you get a lot more humble about how many miles is a good run when you're like, hey, I got to get this whole thing done. It doesn't do me any good to go run 50 today and then have to walk for 3 months. Like, it's a lot better to try and do it in a regulated pace. But I think you're right. People, like, no one has that conversation about how long it takes. And if you went to a personal trainer at a gym and said, yeah, what's the time horizon? They're going to give you a 60, 90, whatever they think, can hold your attention. But the reality is it's years.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this big movement that I'm seeing going on all around me? I'm in nearly my 40s, and I've started seeing a lot of guys starting to take tea. And whether they're doing it with going into a doctor's office and getting a shot or rubbing creams on them or whatever. I remember when I was a kid, they told us that all this stuff was going to, end in hell and damnation if you do it. Is that still the case? Is it still dangerous to take tea, or is this something we've transcended?
Well, it's a very complex topic, and I'm always a proponent of being able to keep your hormones and everything at optimal levels through food, through lifestyle, but a lot of people don't necessarily have that the motivation. And so for a lot of, it does in a lot of cases improve the quality of their lives. So who am I to say that they shouldn't be doing it? But then you kind of become dependent on the treatment to get it. And there are plenty of people in their 40s and 50s that are able to live a high quality of life without having to get the injections or the creams or whatever. They do it through food, they do it through sleep. But again, most people don't really care. They don't want to sleep. It's just they'll take the easier route.
And do you know of so the people I talk to that are doing it now are like, yeah, the side effects, we pretty much got them under control. Is that true? Has there been enough like bodybuilders and people doing that? Like I was always under the impression that you would eventually grow breasts and lose all your hair. But I mean, like I also, when I was in the DARE program in middle school, I thought if you smoked one joint, you were dead on the street and you'd be homeless. And like, so I don't know what to believe here.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm the same, but I know people who are taking anabolic steroids. I've had some clients who took testosterone later in life, and they're still doing all right. It's like you. They said that the side effects were controlled. So again, who am I to judge that decision? Only time will tell what really happens. I don't know anybody personally that's died from it, that's gotten all the heart attacks or whatever, but I can't say that there aren't bad side effects either, because I'm sure some people have done it and have gotten horrible outcomes from it.
I think this is going to grow tremendously in the next couple of years. And like the photo that you always see on Twitter is the Jeff Bezos when he's like a little nerd guy and he doesn't have good posture. And then the next time he looks like Mr. Clean walking off a helicopter or something. And you're like, whoa, what did that guy do?
Yeah, well, he has access to the best.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what you think the future of exercise is. What are changes that are coming down the pipeline that you think, right now not many people are doing, but they will be in the future?
Well, home gyms are going to be a big thing, and already are over the last year. A lot of my clients had to adapt their situation where they were training in a gym, and then all of a sudden all the gyms were closed. So they had to start equipping their homes and figure out the space. Some of my clients live in small apartments. Others have plenty of space for a home gym. So a lot more people are going to be equipping either their garage or a room in their house for, just in case something like that happens again. And that's something that COVID triggered. So a lot more people will be training from home. Virtual reality will probably be a thing. I mean, I'm starting to look into it because what if I can be with the client? What if I can be with my client in Missouri or California or India, but then also see how they're moving and be able to show them through virtual reality? So for me, that's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I think VR is probably several years away from that being the case, but I think you're right about it. Like, so what I did for a couple of months during COVID was I'd work out my regular Monday through Thursday. Then Friday, I would do a virtual reality exercise. So I would take a different program and do it. So whether it was a boxing one or a running one. And I think that VR is not yet there with the exercise. Like, it's just like too cumbersome or too something, but there's no doubt in my mind that it will be far, far easier to get people to strap on their headset and go do a boxing match or a kickboxing match or, some other activity that normally they would have to drag themselves to doing in front of like a two-dimensional TV. So I definitely see where that is. And as far as like training and exercise, being able to see a person like you, being able to watch how their movement is going, like, is that ankle coming up off the ground? Or, is that heel, is that really stable? I think that's going to be a game changer for you guys.
Yeah, of course. And I'm already kind of doing that through Zoom, right? Where I can see exactly what's not working or which muscle isn't activating. But virtual reality will just bring another dimension. Maybe they'll have some sort of suit on and I'll be able to really see which muscles aren't working. And it's going to be a space where the client and I can be sort of facing each other in this, face to face, but not through a computer. It's going to be through the virtual reality environment.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so much that can be done, like you were saying, right on Zoom, right? Somebody cycling and you can look at their position and how their head is and where their arms are on their bike. And is that what's causing all their pain? There's just a lot. And we really went through a phase change with COVID because there were a lot of people that were like, I'm sure I could do that, but I don't really know how and I don't want to mess around with it. Now that's not even a part of people's thoughts. They've used it so much that it's ubiquitous in their lives.
Mm. And no, I definitely, it became a big part of my regular life. And at first I had no idea how I was going to work out. I thought it was going to be a little weird not being with a person, but then there's just so much more that I don't need to be there for maybe 95% of what I have to teach. So it just worked out really fine. And I just, through the chat, I send instruction videos so they can see what I want exactly. And it's been great.
And so what is your exercise routine like?
I do a lot. I'm into Olympic weightlifting now. So it's brought a little more of a sport aspect to it, where I have, but it's an individual sport, unlike hockey, which is, you have teammates. Now it's me against me. And so everything I do revolves around increasing the weight for the different Olympic lifts. And so I do that about maybe 4 or 5 times a week. And it's fun. It's, I was into bodybuilding, and I still do love it. And I still have bodybuilding components into my routine. But I do a lot more snatches and power cleans and stuff like that.
So if a guy like you, you have all your movements down correctly and you're working on them, and do you still hate leg day?
No, I love it. But my legs are the strongest, my strongest body parts. Yeah, but I don't hate any workout days, really.
Well, you must see people that hate leg day and have like why is that? Why is it that people have such a strong aversion to leg day?
Few people train them, right? And they're such big muscles that when they do train them, they feel it. The glutes, the quads, the hamstrings, they're just big, powerful muscles that for a lot of people who sit all day long, these muscles get even weaker over time. And so, the moment that they train them through a full range of motion, they're going to feel it. I had a client that felt it for 5 days after the workout. But once they do get stronger, then they start to love it a bit more because, if your legs are stronger, life becomes a lot easier. Everything in life is easier. And you just feel it in the way that you stand, or when you walk, you have a more powerful stride. And so they kind of get over that initial hatred for leg day. But it's always, a lot of leg movements involve the upper body as well and the abs. And so you don't get sore from your legs, you get sore everywhere else. And so you get that extra level of soreness. Maybe that's what causes them to say that they hate it.
Yeah, my sense is that along with everything you've said is that legs are such a mental thing, because like I at least do not use them properly, right? Like I'll bend my hips in some weird way, or I'll arch my back, or I'll do some weird thing. And so it's way less mentally taxing for me just to be doing curls or doing, where I'm just lifting something above my head. Whereas when you're going down to do a squat, you're like, all right, hold my abs, now keep my hips, and don't let my heels come off. And so I would imagine that eventually after several years, you're probably able to integrate all those things without so much mental brain power. But that's the hardest part for me.
Of course, there's a lot more coordination going on for movements like squats and deadlifts, but you have to do it. It's so important because especially as you get older, mobility becomes a big thing, right? And by strengthening your legs, you make sure that for the next 10, 20 years, you're going to be walking, or you're going to be walking properly, or walking, the weaker your legs are, the harder it is to walk and to move. And so you become lazier by default because you're not going to want to take that long walk or that hike, to stay active, because your legs are so weak that you won't even get there. So by training your legs, by strengthening your legs, and I work with a lot of, people in their 40s and 50s where they've never trained their legs before, and now they're in pain. And by strengthening their legs, they actually fix a lot of their issues. It's just, the only problem that they had was that their legs couldn't support their upper body anymore. So it's just, it's crucial.
Yeah. And you must also see a lot of people with things like really short hamstrings and the ways that you sit in your chair. So for all the people that right now are sitting and listening to you, and they're going to be sitting all day, what do they not realize about what that does to their body and when they're trying to do regular movements?
Well, you're suffocating two of your most powerful muscles, the glutes and the hamstrings, right? So you're sitting on the chair. Not only are you crushing the muscles against the chair, but you're also just removing it from your whole system, right? So our brains are lazy. We always look for the path of least resistance. When you're supported by a chair, you don't need your hamstrings and your glutes anymore. And so what ends up happening is they just sort of, and I say disconnected because when I assess people, it's almost as if those muscles weren't part of their body anymore. And you sort of have to sort of reconnect it through movement. And so, the more you sit, the more your muscles become numb, so to speak. And not only do you get weaker, but, you lose your hips' most important support. And it just, you might get away with it for when you're 30s, even maybe in the mid 40s, but at some point it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah, you always pay for the cheating that you do. Like the way that I sit in my chair, and like if I'm not finding a way to actually sit down on the bone in the proper way, it just never works. So how would you, if you were going to just be chatting with somebody to see like, hey, this is what I would test to see how flexible I am, or, how flexible should people be? How much mobility should they have if they're in their 40s or 50s? And how would they know?
That's a good question. Obviously you have some people that are super mobile. You don't need to get to that level. You just need, I'd say a good metric is you should be able to sit comfortably in a deep squat position. That's probably the basic hip mobility, just overall mobility that you need. So can you stay at the bottom of a squat and stay there for a minute? A lot of people can't. A lot of people, they can't even get into that bottom deep squat. Or once they do, it's very uncomfortable, or they start twitching, and they have to. Some of them fall over or almost fall over, and so that's when you know that they're at a critical point where their hips are going to be super tight very soon.
Oh, that's a really good one. That's actually something I'll try as soon as we get done here to see how flexible I am. That's pretty good. Yeah.
And I've seen so many different things happen when people try to hold a position. It's but once they do get better and once they do get more comfortable, just overall, they feel much better.
So if somebody was saying, hey, I've decided I want to start trying to make some changes in my life. I don't need to be 100 pounds lighter. I just want to lose 20 pounds and I just want to feel better. What's the path that they should get on to try and make that a reality?
Start with walks, regular walks. See if you can do, 3 times 20 minutes in a week. Right, just a simple walk around your neighborhood if you can. So not everybody can do it necessarily, but and then if you're able to, to maintain that habit, if you're able to get it 3 times a week, then you can start thinking about exercise. But a walk in itself is very refreshing for the mind. It's very good for the body. It's a very good basic movement, and so it's a good place to start. Just see, okay, can I go on 3 walks during my week, at least, and then if you get that, then okay, then can I do a short workout before my walks? And then you sort of just add and add until you're able to do 3 to 5 times 1 hour in a week of actual exercise. And then on top of that, you walk, because the two go so well together.
Yeah, I loved your tweets about going for a walk and how much that does for your brain. Like that's 100% for me. I'm always feeling like, oh, I got to just sit here and grind through work. And if I were just to like go leash up my dog and go for a walk, I'll be able to solve that complicated problem in a matter of a few minutes. But you just like, it's hard. It's like the voice of resistance saying like, nah, you're fine. Just keep working. You'll figure it out.
No, for sure. Again, it's everybody's going to be different, and there's the whole psychological aspect to it. But starting with something like a walk is probably the least stressful way of doing it.
And so tell me about people that you've trained. What has changed about their lives now that they've done a lot of exercise and they've been able to master this?
Well, one of the first feedback that I ever got as a young personal trainer was my client told me that he was able to pick up his son and hold him in the air, which is something that he had a shoulder and neck problem. And so we strengthened all these different scapular muscles in his back. And he told me, a few days later, he's like, I'm able to pick up my son up now. And it was, 2 weeks of work that we had done. And he's like, it just kind of hit me like, wow, like I was able to do that for the person. And then, obviously it's, you help them fix their sleep. You help them feel like they're 20 years old again. That's something that someone's told me just by the way that they move. You make their lives a lot easier. You increase their confidence. Their whole aura energy changes. I was training this man who was 70 years old, and he had been beaten up by life. He had cancer, heart attacks, all sorts of different things, and he had never exercised before. And he started. And when he first came into my studio, he was walking, super slowly, super almost gray tint, and 2-3 months later, he was unrecognizable. He had a glow to himself. He was walking, he had sunglasses and he was happy. And so just it fixes so many different systems that the gains that you make in the gym or through exercise will radiate into other parts of your life, whether it's work, whether it's your mood, whether it's, your personal relations. And so it's always, the feedback is the best part.
Yeah, I think that you don't realize if you've stopped exercising, because I was in my, I don't know, probably from 23 till 33, maybe even longer. I didn't exercise at all. And you eventually hit this point where it's your baseline. You think like, I am not capable of feeling better than this. Like, it's not possible. I'm just tired, or I'm just da 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 da. And then once you start exercising, you realize like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to go back. And it doesn't mean that you don't have backslides. Everybody does. You have a kid, you have holidays, you have things that happen. But like, once you know that your baseline is not feeling crappy or sore all the time, it becomes, I wish it was an addiction, but it's not, because that would mean that it was easy. But it definitely is something where you know what you're missing when it's not there now.
And a lot of times I'll work with someone and then they stop for whatever reason, but then they come back, a few months, even a few years later, and they're like, I got to start again, because they felt it's like you said, they felt good for the first time in a long time. But then they stop and they go back to that feeling. But because they have that reference point now, they know that it's possible not to feel like that. And so it begins the process of being consistent. But like I said, it could take many years for some people to get there.
Well, if people wanted to learn more about the online school of exercise, where would they go?
theonlineschoolofexercise.com and my Twitter feed at mythoughtfood.
Food, man. That is one of the great Twitter feeds. I love it. I hope you just keep going. To me, it's like a gift you're giving the universe by putting that stuff out there. I really enjoy your Twitter feed.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Alex Bernier, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time. Hope things go okay up there in Socialist Canada for you.
We'll be good. We'll be all right. But thank you for having me. It was a great chatting with you, Vance.